Hey, it's Joe Clements here from SmokedBarbecueSauce.com. Today I'm doing a Z-Grills review. Now, most people don't know this, but the guys behind Z-Grills have actually been manufacturing grills for companies like Pit Boss and Traeger for the last 30 years. After running a successful crowdfunding campaign back in 2017, they decided to cut out the middleman and start selling direct to consumers under the Z-Grills brand. Z-Grills offer similar construction quality to what you would get with a Traeger or a Pit Boss, but at a pretty reduced price point. Now, just to be fully transparent, Z-Grills did reach out to me to see if I'd be interested in testing out this grill, but all thoughts and opinions in this review are my own. Now, I've been cooking on this Z-Grills for the last couple of weeks, and in this review I'm going to share with you a couple of the things that I like, some of the things I actually don't like, and if I recommend you should pick one up. Now, let's get some of the basics out of the way first. The 700E that I've got here is the most popular grill that Z-Grills sell. It probably sits right in the sweet spot where it comes to price, size, and features. You've got 694 square inches of cooking space, and that's split between a large lower rack and two removable upper racks. In terms of construction, this grill is made out of stainless steel, although the insulation feels pretty thin, and I noticed plenty of smoke leaking out of the door during the startup process. You could probably fix this with some high heat gasket tape, and to be honest, I didn't really notice any performance issues. Now, for this review, I wanted to start off with a couple of the things that I actually liked about this grill, and then we'll go through some of the things I don't like, and then we'll get into the details and share some of the experiences that I had while cooking. Let's start with what I like about the 700E. It's a generously sized pellet grill. It's easy to operate, fairly easy to clean, puts out really decent food, all for a price point significantly under other brands. One of the other things I like about this grill is the split rack system. So you have one large rack on the bottom, which I use for most of my cooking, but if you want to really fill it up, you have two separate racks that can go on the top. Now this is handy if, for example, you're cooking something really large like a brisket that is too high to allow you to have both racks. You can have just one rack at the back or one rack at the front if you wanted to also smoke some sausage or a rack of ribs at the same time. I also like that this model comes with the cart door, which is great if you want to store some pellets, keep them dry, or an area to store your tools or some spices. I definitely recommend this model over the slightly cheaper model which comes without any cart door. Now let's go through a couple of things that I actually don't like about this grill. Now, unfortunately, there's no way to easily drain unused pellets, which is unfortunate because the manufacturer recommends after each cook actually emptying out all the pellets, keeping them in a cool, dry place. Leaving pellets in the grill and letting it get a little bit humid or damp is actually the #1 reason why people have run into troubles with grills like these. So it's a shame that they didn't allow you like a trapdoor feature or a chute for easily draining the pellets. That said, it's fairly easy to just scoop them out and then use a shop vac to suck out the last few that are stuck in the auger. One other thing I noticed with this grill, you do have to be careful when you're opening and shutting the lid. At least at my height, I found my tender spot on my wrist was getting dangerously close to that hot lid every time I opened or shut it. Would have been good if they had installed some heat proofing there, which I've seen on other grills. Maybe just changed how far out the handle came to make it a little bit safer to open and close. This is a little bit of a nitpick, but the temperature screen was also a little bit small and a little bit hard to read in direct sunlight. Now, I'm not going to bore you with the setup of this grill. I'm actually embarrassed to say, but I'm pretty bad at putting grills together, so I've cut out that video. For most people, it will take you about 1 hour to put together. Everything comes very well packaged and smartly boxed up. I found no defects on my grill. All the parts felt pretty light, but they fit together well during installation. One person could put this grill together, although there were a few parts where it was helpful to have a second person. Let's go through how I found grilling and smoking on the Z-Grills. First off, I have to say I found cooking on the 700E incredibly easy. The controls, while fairly basic, make it very easy to just pick the temperature you want. The automatic controller really takes care of everything else. Startup is pretty simple. You switch the controller onto smoke mode, let it go for 4 or 5 minutes until you hear the fire really going and you get a lot of smoke coming out, and then you can shut the lid and set the temperature you want, anywhere between 180 to 450 degrees. Now, to see how this grill performed as a smoker, I set it up at 250 degrees and put on a nice pork shoulder to make some pulled pork with. I found the pork took on some nice colour, although there wasn't as much bark formation as I would usually get on my trusty charcoal smoker. Once the pork hit 165 degrees, I validated that with my thermopen and then wrapped it in foil to help power through the stall. Once my pork reached a nice internal temperature of around 205 degrees, I pulled it off and gave it a rest. The pork pulled nicely and was super moist and had a pleasant smoke ring. My wife and I both agreed that the smoke flavour was much more subtle when cooked on the Z-grills compared to what I would get on the Weber Smoky Mountain. She actually preferred that, but if you are more of a traditional barbecue enthusiast, you might find that the smoke flavour is just a little bit lacking. One thing you can actually do is, instead of dialing straight up to 250 or 225, you can run the smoker on the smoke setting for an hour or two at the start, and that gets the grill to burn a lot more pellets and produce a lot more smoke just when you're starting out. So that's certainly something you could try and do, and I plan on testing that out more. But how does it perform at grilling? This is an area most pellet grills struggle with, as the mechanism just simply doesn't get hot enough to make proper grill marks or for proper searing. To test it out, I fired the grill up to maximum, let it come up to temp, and then I put on a few chicken thighs. I was excited when I heard a really nice sizzle sound when the chicken thighs hit the grill. However, by the time it was done, they only had very light grill marks on them and not a lot of charring or crust to speak of. Now, don't get me wrong, they tasted delicious. The meat was moist and had a light smoke flavour to it. If you want a deep grill marks or a really nice charred or crusty grilling experience, you're probably not going to be able to get it with the Z-grills. Now, I have heard of some people using grill grates or adding a cast iron plate to get a bit better sort of thermal conductivity for grilling. It's something I plan on experimenting with. Out of the box, the Z-grills can grill okay, but it's not going to win any state competition awards. Now, with every pellet grill we test, I like to do a couple of standard tests to see how it performs compared to the competition. First off, how long until you can start smoking? From the initial setup, the grill takes about 11 minutes to get up to 225 degrees Fahrenheit. That's pretty standard. It takes a full 25 minutes to get to the maximum temperature. Even after running for an hour, I still hadn't reached the max advertised temperature of 450 degrees. Instead, I found it maxed out at around 420. To test out how even the grill was at different temperatures, I set up my trusty ThermoWorks signals, which comes with 4 different probes, and I set one probe up in the middle of the grill, one on the left and one on the right, and then I compared that with what the temperature readout on the grill said. Now, just for reference, Z-grills placed their grill ambient temperature probe on the far left side of the grill, closest to the hopper, and that's also the side that I found was the hottest. I was pretty pleased to see that around the 225 degree mark, there was not much variation at all between the left, middle and right. So if you're putting like different racks of ribs on and you're smoking at 225, you should be all good. As things started to get hotter, I did detect a little bit more variance. At max temperature, there was a discrepancy of about 25 degrees, the far right side being the coolest and the left side being the hottest. Now, I did mention at the start of this review that cleaning was one of the few areas where I thought the Z-grills could have done a better job, and that's really just the pellet clean out. Z-grills were kind enough to include a roll of aluminum foil, which they recommend you place on top of the grease tray. This makes it very easy to just pull off the racks, scrunch up the foil and dispose of it, and then place some new foil over the top. After a few cooks, it's highly recommended to clean out the grill properly, and for that I highly recommend just using a shop vac. Remove the grease tray, remove the baffle plate and vacuum out all the pellet dust. There's also a grease drain on the bucket to the side, and I found that didn't actually get much use, but if you're doing a really long cook with a larger protein, that'll probably come in handy. So, to wrap things up, would I recommend this grill? Well, if you want an easy smoker without a lot of bells and whistles, then the Z-Grill 700E is a great option at a very affordable price. You do give up on a couple of bells and whistles There's no Wi-Fi, so forget about being able to control this grill with an app. There's also, as I mentioned, limited searing capabilities. Some other grill manufacturers allow you more easy access to slide open the fire pot for more direct flame grilling. And while you could probably hack something together with this grill, I wouldn't recommend it. Everything I cooked on the Ziegels tasted amazing. The pulled pork was super moist and smoky. I grilled up some chicken that tasted very good, although it didn't have quite the amount of char on the outside that I normally like. Just to try something a little different, because they do go on about how it can bake and smoke and grill and all these other things. I tried cooking a pizza on there as well. I found the pizza, while not hot enough for a proper traditional sort of wood-fired style pizza, it still turned out delicious and had a nice smoky taste as well, and the dough was able to get nice and crispy too. So that wraps up my review of the Ziegels 700E. If you found this review helpful, please don't hesitate to subscribe to our channel, where we'll be posting lots more grill reviews and barbecue recipes. Once again, there's a link in the description below to check out this Z-Grills and also all the other different size grills Ziegels sell. And also don't forget, you can head on over to smokebarbecuesauce.com for the full review, where we go through a lot more detail on the build quality and some of the different tests that we ran.